Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Purpose Partner Path podcast. I'm your host, Coach Wendy Gladney, also known as the Purpose Partner. As many of you know, I work with women who find themselves at crossroads, many times in life and in work. Women who have accomplished a great deal. They've gained wisdom through experience and built expertise over the years, and sometimes even over decades, yet somehow still they feel lost or overlooked. And it's not because they lack value, and it's not even because they lack talent, but because they haven't fully stepped into the visibility, confidence, and positioning required for others to see what they already know about themselves. Well, today's conversation is especially important because so many women find themselves asking, why am I overlooked? Why do less qualified people seem to get all the opportunities? And why am I not being recognized for who I am and what I know? Well, the truth is, expertise alone isn't always enough. What would you do if you could receive answers to those questions that I just said? Well, we've got an expert here with us today that's going to share some of that. And I'm so excited to hear what she's going to share because Aurora Gregory is going to share so much with us that some of us may have known a little bit of it but forgot, but it's going to be some good nuggets for us to chew on today. So, you know what we do every week? Go get your cup of tea so we can dive into another great conversation.
Exhale, let go, and enjoy the Purpose Partner Podcast.
Aurora is the founder of Aurora Gregory Consulting and Speaker Brand Academy. She is a speaker brand strategist and payments marketing consultant with more than 25 years of experience of helping organizations communicate complex ideas in ways that people can understand and remember. But what makes today's conversation especially meaningful for me is that I first met Aurora more than 2 decades ago when she worked at Nestle and Nestle USA was one of my clients. It has been a joy, I think, for both of us to watch the evolution for both of our lives. So, Aurora, welcome to the Purpose Partner Path podcast, and please share with our audience a little bit more about your journey.
Oh, Wendy, thank you so much. I've been looking forward to this since we, finally got it scheduled and on the calendar. And you're so right. You and I have a wonderful history together, and I still look back so fondly on all of the things that we got to do together when Nestle was a part of both of our lives.
Yes.
And I'll share a little bit about myself, telling just a little bit of a story that I'm not even sure that you know, or if you did, might not remember. But I have always been a talker. I was one of those kids that was always a talker. But when I was 14, I was a finalist in a speech contest. It was a speech contest that I did not want to enter. Mr. Johnson, my social studies teacher, actually made me do it. And I ended up in the final 2. I didn't win that speech contest. And even to this day, I can still remember what I did that probably cost me the win. But looking back on that, I really think that was what kind of jump-started my interest in communicating ideas. And also looking back, recognizing that was probably the first time I understood the power of the person at the microphone. When you're a speaker and you step to that podium or you're introduced and brought to that center stage, every eye is on you. Every ear is open to what it is that you have to say. And that is a really powerful position to hold. Now, I certainly didn't think about that. I think about it like that as a 14-year-old, but I know that had a propelling influence on my life and how I, ultimately became a marketing communications consultant, working with executives in Fortune 500 companies, helping them get on stages. And then ultimately working with entrepreneurs and experts like yourself and helping them refine their own speaking business so that they can understand and take advantage of the power of the microphone.
Wow. I did not know that. I'm not surprised though, because just knowing what I do know about you, I can see that. I'm just surprised you didn't win. but you've won at life. And so that's even a better blessing. So let me ask you, many women listening today have years of experience. Some of them may even have advanced degrees, certifications, and wisdom, yet they still feel invisible. Why do you think so many highly qualified women struggle with visibility today? And I don't even mean being, just for vanity. I'm not even talking about that. I'm just talking about in terms of them being able to walk stronger in their purpose.
Yeah. It's so interesting that you asked me that question because over the weekend, I was visiting with two of my nieces. They're very new in their careers. I describe them both as, having their first big girl jobs.
Yeah.
And one of them was sharing with me that her manager last week let her know that there were some things in the works that were going to be good for her at work. She'd been working really hard, taking up a lot of extra responsibilities with, very little extra compensation, but doing a great job. And so as she's sharing this story with me, I asked her, I said, well, did you ask what was in the works and what was the level of compensation they were considering, moving you to? And she looked at me and she said, no. And I said, well, why didn't you ask? And so she gave me some answer and I said, okay, is that really the answer or were you just afraid?
Hmm.
And she said, I was afraid. And I said, okay, well, we have to have a conversation about it. So we launched into auntie mode there. But I think that fear for a lot of women plays
Hmm.
a big role in why they don't take their rightful place when it comes to their experience, to the work that they've done, to the knowledge that they have, the lived experience and sharing it in a way that could be helpful to others or elevate them to a position or a role that they rightfully deserve. Fear is one of those things. It can keep you from doing something you really should do, or it can make you do things that you really shouldn't do. And
Yes.
that's what I see for a lot of women, especially ones that I get to coach who have, a message in their heart, have some incredible expertise, and really are hesitant to put themselves out there. And it happens whether you're, in your late 20s and have your first big girl job, or you're, towards the end of your career and wanting to make an important pivot
Yes.
and wanting to use all of the experience you've gained. There's this fear that sets in and it can really just, stifle you from moving forward.
I agree with you because I know that in the past, for me, sometimes fear or even imposter syndrome sometimes used to plague me when I was younger. And, even into my 40s, and now I'm in my 60s. But I would look at others and I would think, oh my gosh, I'm not as good enough. Whatever it is. But I know that when I looked back, it had a lot to do with fear. You just mentioned the word knowledge. And so often, you've talked about becoming the voice that people remember. What is the difference between being knowledgeable and memorable?
It's such a good question. All of us have gained knowledge, whether it's just from living or work experience. We all have it. I think what's the difference is what we do with that knowledge that makes us memorable. First, making the decision that the knowledge that I have has the potential to make an impact, whether it's an impact on the company I work for to help it move forward and meet its own goals, whether it's as a coach and you're working with clients and have something that can help someone else get over a hurdle, move forward in the life that they have. It's what you do with that knowledge that really makes a difference. Holding on to what you have and not using it to make an impact is really the difference. We can all hoard our knowledge, but when we want to be memorable, we make a concerted effort to share it. And that's what makes us memorable. That's where, we have, situations where, and I talk to speakers and they have the really incredible experience of meeting someone who was in their audience maybe a year ago. And that audience member gets to share with them what you said, this one sentence, this part of your story made such an impact on my life. And now I'm doing this because of you. That's what makes people memorable. When you use your knowledge to make an impact, whatever that impact is going to be, you get to decide. But that, to me, that's the game changer, is deciding what you want to do with what you know.
Well, I even have to say to our audience that I've actually witnessed recently some of your knowledge that has helped make you memorable for me with some of the things that I'm trying to do with my career and with my journey. So I understand it's about sharing knowledge, and oftentimes people are afraid to do that, and I don't know why. It's as if we think if somebody else does better at what they're doing, it means you're not. It's whereas actually it's almost like when like what that saying is about, when the water rises or when the tide comes in, all boats rise. And so yes, sharing knowledge is so important. Can you share what are some of the biggest mistakes that professionals make when trying to establish themselves as experts, and what mind shifts do you think that they can make to improve that?
Well, I think, one of the biggest mistakes that I see people make, and it almost makes me think a little bit more about the story I shared about my niece, is, so many are willing to be the best kept secret. They don't make a point of being visible
Hmm.
and making sure that they are appropriately sharing what it is that they've done, what it is that they've accomplished, securing appropriate recognition and acknowledgement for what you've done. There's something about that I think, again, goes back to maybe fear, and fear being the ribbon around imposter syndrome. No one ever wants to be seen as the pushy one, the salesy one, the prideful one. No one ever wants to be seen that way. My personal feeling is that if you are legitimately talking about your accomplishments, the things that you've done, the things that you know, those are irrefutable facts.
Yes.
They're just true. And so if you are sharing the facts, well, it's hard to embrace the salesy, the prideful, when all you're doing is talking about what's actually true. And I
Yes.
think that that's, something that over the course of my career, certainly I would say the last, 10 to 15 years of my entrepreneurial life, is really embracing that fact that the things that I've accomplished, the things that I've done, are irrefutable facts. They are not situational, they're not conditional, they're not objective. They're
Mhm.
just true. And so
Yes.
if all I'm doing is telling the truth, well, I can't really be accused of being prideful.
Yeah. Sometimes when you were talking in the beginning about how women or people in general could fail to follow through and share all the good things about themselves and so forth. And then when you were sharing the story about your niece, one of the things that came to my mind was my husband, who has been a leadership expert and in sales and so forth, has often talked about a lot of times entrepreneurs, they go in and they do this great presentation, but they never really do the ask. They never ask for the job or ask for, the client to sign up or to do certain things. And then we wonder why. Well, how come they didn't, take an order? Well, you didn't
Right.
even ask, so I
It's
loved
so
how you
true.
brought that up about the ask. So
Well, and
let
I
me
think that's so true in the sense that, you know, I think all of us can have, are hesitant about asking, because we're fearful of the answer, or we've kind of, you know, doom casted that the answer is going to be no. So why should I even bother to ask?
yeah.
And, I think, we need to do a better job of that self-talk that happens in our own heads,
Mhm.
and saying, there's an influencer that I follow. She's, all about mindset and stuff. And she said, she has a book that she wrote that's called But What If It's Wonderful?
Mm.
And we need to be able to kind of lean into that. It's like, well, yeah, it could be a no, but it also could be yes.
Yeah.
And we'll never know if we don't ask.
Yeah, but what if it's wonderful,
But what if it's wonderful?
That's interesting. That's a good segue into my next question. Is one of the things I often teach is that women at crossroads, and oftentimes when women are at crossroads, they cannot build an authentic future because they're living on a borrowed identity. Sometimes women spend years playing small, like you said,
Mhm.
hiding their gifts, waiting for permission. And I believe becoming visible begins with owning who you are. So let me ask you, many women struggle with this. And I've said to you, I refer to it as imposter syndrome. But how do you help someone recognize their expertise and speak with confidence?
I love the process of, unpacking who you really are. The way I kind of talk about it is that it can be really difficult to read the label on a pickle jar when you're a pickle because you're inside the jar. Like you can't see yourself. It's very
Yeah,
difficult to see yourself clearly.
that's a
And
good point.
so it's what I love about the work of being a coach. I'm sure you've experienced this as well, coaching
Yes.
coaching women.
Yes.
When you listen to them and let them tell their story, and then present it back to them in a way that they can't hear or see.
Yes.
I love to do that with speakers as they share their story and they're trying so hard to narrow the story down so that they can feel confident about getting on stage with it. And they tell me everything and it's like, okay, I think your story is this.
Hmm.
And so how to do that is if you have the opportunity to either work with a coach or have a good friend that is really good at kind of dissecting things, is to
Hmm.
sit down with someone and tell them your story, tell them what you're struggling with, and let them present it back to you because
Hmm.
they're hearing it and seeing things that you can't possibly see because you're in the pickle jar.
Yeah.
And then, separately, if you're in a position to hire a coach, investing in yourself is never wrong. You're never going to regret investing in yourself.
I agree.
And I would do that, whether it's a one-time coaching session to have someone help you kind of make sense of one small thing, or, a longer term coaching relationship that can help you get to the next, help you get to where you want to go. But I think that that's probably one of the most important roles of having someone listen to you and then present back to you what it is that they see, because it's very difficult to do for yourself in isolation. I'm sure it's possible, and I would recommend that, at the minimum, sit down and journal about it, and then, see what comes up. But that's the thing that I would really encourage people to do.
Yes. No, I mean, you're right. That is so true that we don't see ourselves the way others see us, good or bad, and when it comes to us also figuring out, like, how do I move forward with that? It can be challenging. So I'm a I mean, I invest in coaches too and in programs and things that I believe that are going to help me become a better person. So I absolutely agree with you. Let me ask, I'm going to move to the Purpose Partner's second pillar, which is called Becoming Unshakable. I believe that being unshakable doesn't mean you never doubting yourself, but it does mean refusing to let the fear, which is what you've talked about, have the final say.
Right.
So, Aurora, what practices have helped you remain confident and grounded throughout your own professional journey?
I think for me, ultimately, it comes down to my faith in Christ. I became a Christian in my mid 20s. That really reshaped how I thought about everything. I think about where I am now in my life, and that still is foundationally what matters most to me. For me, practically, what that has meant is recognizing that there is someone greater than myself that's involved in my business and orchestrating my opportunities and orchestrating my own paths and steps. It's meant having core scriptures that I literally write down daily in my planner as I get ready to start the day. Those things are very, very grounding to me. And really, there is, the life of an entrepreneur is filled with things to legitimately be afraid of.
Yes.
So when you've got someone that is at the wheel, it's a game changer. I
Yes.
think the other thing that has also helped is investing in coaching, both for my business and in my mindset. I would say probably in the last couple of years, as I've tried to build new things, it's like what got you here is not going to get you there.
I love
And
that book.
yeah, and so investing in mindset coaching and having someone help me kind of unravel some of the challenges that have maybe kept held me back in the past, has been really important, and really pivotal in me, continuing to move forward, continuing to innovate, continuing to see opportunities, and then not just see them, but step into them. But foundationally, it has to start with my faith. I don't know how I would do this if I didn't have my faith in God.
Well, that's another piece that you and I have in common because, God has been at the wheel for me my entire life, but truly as I've grown and grown in, of course, as you say, in our spiritual journeys and with our Christian walk. So I'm 100% with you. So, switching back to some of the core things that I know that you're good at is how important is personal branding in today's marketplace?
I would have to say it's probably never been more important. This technological revolution that we're living through right now is
Hmm.
both wonderful and terrifying. Um, right now, AI makes it possible for everyone to sound like the smartest person in the room. The problem is that everybody sounds like they're the smartest person in the room. If you don't have a really defined personal brand, something that is unique to you, and notice I didn't say the flashiest, the loudest, but something that is unique to you, that
Hmm.
defines you, that when someone says your name, it's easy for them to attach what you're about, who you serve, what you talk about. It's never been more important because I think, balancing this technology that we're all living with now,
Yeah.
um, has to be something that's real and genuine and that people can point to. And so when we, really make an effort to build a personal brand, define it. And that word personal brand, I know for a lot of people can feel really daunting. It's like, well, what is that? You know, don't be so concerned about what you don't understand about it. Lean into, okay, what does that mean for me? That's the beauty of the technology that we live in is it's not hard to lean into defining what that should mean for you.
Yes.
And I would encourage, our listeners today to really do that work because in today's AI world, people are looking for what's real, what's
Yes.
authentic. And when
Yes.
your personal brand is defined, um, you become the obvious choice for what people are looking for as it relates to what you talk about and what you're about. And that's what you want to do. It's what I teach in my speaking, curriculum is you want to be the obvious choice for someone who is looking for what you do.
Yes.
And personal branding is what actually makes that possible. It's all about positioning yourself and putting yourself in that right position so that when someone goes out into the world looking for fill in your blank, they're going to find you. And because you've done the work of defining your brand, you become the obvious click for them. You become the obvious person that they want to book a call with.
Mhm. And I think what people need to also realize is that when you're dealing with your personal brand, even if you work for a corporation or work for government or work for something that has nothing to do with being an entrepreneur or whatever, but whatever you put out into the world through social media and all that still reflects how people
Absolutely.
see you, how they'll remember you. And I think a lot of young people today also don't sometimes, well, maybe older too, sometimes don't understand that employers look at what you're putting out there on social
Absolutely.
media, even as your personal brand, as it relates to if they're going to hire you or not. Let
It's
me
so
ask,
true.
so how can someone leverage speaking opportunities, networking, podcasts such as this, or social media and, just growing their influence as a thought leader in their subject matter?
One of the reasons I love public speaking and getting on stages of all kinds, and because of the digital world that we live in, any chance you get to get behind any kind of microphone, even a podcast microphone, is a stage opportunity. Is
Mhm.
how efficient it is. It is one of the most efficient marketing tools you could ever hope to use, and it doesn't matter whether you're an entrepreneur or a rising executive in a company. You want to be able to draw attention to your brand, to the message that you have, to the expertise that you share. And so using public speaking gives you the opportunity to do that. It allows you to it kind of forces you to refine and define what are the key points of what I have to talk about? Because in any given opportunity, you've got to be able to do it succinctly with clarity and be able to use it in responding to questions. And so I love public speaking for that. If you're a corporate executive, whether you're on the rise or, a little bit farther along in your career, more often than not, you have got an industry that has a conference, a meetup, some type of place where all of your peers in your industry get together to learn. Those are speaking opportunities that are just ripe for the picking. And chances are good your company will pay if you pitch yourself to speak and get selected, will pay for you to go do that. If you're an entrepreneur, look for those conferences and events where you can go and pitch yourself to speak. Get yourself in front of those get in rooms where it's filled with the ideal people that you want to serve and help that are ready to become your customers and clients. It's such an efficient way to build trust with people who, when they show up, are primed and ready to listen to you. It's the ultimate in getting in front of warm traffic. When they
Yes.
walked into the room, when they hit play on that podcast, they already knew they wanted to listen to you.
Right.
So it's
Right.
why I really love public speaking, the idea of using a microphone to connect, because it is just such an efficient way to do it.
And I think what I just kind of picked up from what you were saying is that it's also very important that we're clear about what our message is or who we are, what we're doing, and also be very clear about your values and what you stand for, what you will do or not do as it relates to the work that you're involved with. And sometimes I'll throw a scripture in there like, there's a scripture that says, a double-minded man is unstable in all his ways. And I think that also is clear and evident in work environments. If people don't know what you do or who you are or what you stand for, even if you're a nice person or whatever, they won't know. I think this is a great way for me to segue into our third pillar called strategic grace. And when I think of strategic grace, Aurora, I actually think of you. I really do.
Oh,
And strategic grace is about leading well while living whole. And it's understanding that you don't have to become louder, harder, or more aggressive to become influential. And sometimes people think they have to. So let me ask you, how have you learned to lead and communicate with both confidence and grace?
I don't know if this comes with age or wisdom. I'm not sure. I'm not sure what it is. I know it was a greater challenge when I was younger. But certainly, as I've gotten older, and if I could go back and talk to my younger self, um, I I really do believe that we have to lean into the idea that it's all going to be okay. Like, you can't let fear keep you from stepping in and taking even the smallest of steps forward. You know,
Yes.
I see so often people, hesitate to take steps, or because of comparison, it's like, well, I'm not like her, so I'm not going to do anything at all. It's like, no, take those small steps. Step, little, even the smallest of steps compounds, just like interest, it compounds. And if you just keep taking a small step every day, you would be surprised where you'll be in a year. And so I think that for me, that has been something that's a muscle that I have had to build and continue to build upon, knowing and believing that God has gifted me with gifts and talents that someone is waiting for me to share.
Yes.
And I got to get up every day because someone is waiting to hear what I have to say exactly the way that I say it. I'm not the only public speaking coach out there. I might not even be the best public speaking coach out there, but someone needs to hear what I have to say exactly the way I have to say it. And
Mhm.
so God's grace covers all the things that I don't know. And my strategic mind that He also is, blessed me with is what's gonna get me to the door every day and to move forward. So, I think if I had to encourage anyone, it would be in that. It's remember that the knowledge that you have, the experiences that you've lived, someone is waiting to hear about that. And you don't want to disappoint them by not taking steps forward to get to them.
Absolutely agree with you. I know sometimes in the past I was challenged. It was a challenge I put on my own self that people wouldn't listen to me as much because I didn't have a PhD. I wasn't a doctor in something. But, when you talk about the life experiences and how did you go through those are some of the things that people are waiting to hear. And sometimes there's theory and sometimes there's practical. And theory's great and
Mhm.
theory's a good thing. But practical is oftentimes what gets us from day to day in a lot of the things that we can share.
It's so true.
So, gosh, I'm looking at our time. And what I really would like to do is, do you mind if I do what I call my rapid fire and
Absolutely. I'm all for it.
just ask you some questions and you kind of fill in if you can with one word or just one quick sentence or whatever. So, the biggest mistake experts make is,
Not taking action,
I love that. Okay. One thing every woman should stop doing immediately is,
apologizing.
I love that. Yes, because we do
We
all the
do.
time.
For things that we did
Whatever.
not do, for things that we have no control over, for things that were not our fault, we seem to
Yes.
feel the need to apologize. Please, all of us, can we stop
Stop it.
apologizing?
Yes. Visibility is not about,
It is not about being a dancing monkey. You do not have to do dances or anything else but be yourself in order to be visible.
I love that. Success becomes easier
When you stop overthinking, all of us have, I think, can point to times when we either missed opportunities or maybe made opportunities harder than they needed to be because we just overthought it.
wow, that's a good one. Okay. The most powerful voice is the one that,
That focuses on serving with
mm,
with the gifts and talents that they have. That is not to say that you give everything that you have away for free, because that isn't what I'm saying. But
I
when
understand.
you Yep. And so, but when you focus on serving everything, you're serving that audience well, serving that person that's waiting to hear what you have to say the way that you have to say it, everything else generally falls into place.
I'm a witness. My whole life's been about that. So I totally understand. Okay. My last question, but it's not a rapid fire one. This is where I want to hear your wisdom. If a woman listening today feels invisible, overlooked, or uncertain about her next chapter, what is the one thing that you would want her to remember?
That everything that you've been through, whether it's lived experience or what you've done to build the career that you have, is not was not an accident,
Hmm.
and it is valuable to
Yes.
someone else. You have incredible wisdom that someone desperately needs. Your story has the power to reassure them, to encourage them, to be even if it's you becoming the cautionary tale. It's important that you share what you have and that you think bigger than your mind will allow you. Those visions that you have, know that they're possible. They don't have to be just something that you dream about while you're driving about town. The life that you envision can happen. It can actually be yours. It's just a matter of taking those steps. And it doesn't happen overnight. It doesn't happen all at once, but it won't happen at all if you don't start with a step. So
I
I would
love that.
encourage someone today, like, think about what's one step you could take today, and then
Mhm.
act on it. You'll be surprised at how empowering.
Yeah. And I think you're right. A lot of times, a lot of us allow our mindset to hold us back, where we just think that it's too late and it's never too late, or that we don't have enough, or whatever it is. But like you said, if they take that one step, and how that one step will then, before you know it, you'll look back and you've gone, you've taken a whole flight of stairs up. So let
Exactly.
me, so let me ask you, what is one of the biggest takeaways you would want someone, because you've kind of already summed it up, but I was going to say, if you could just talk to that one person, not the
Mhm.
whole audience, other than taking that one step, what is something that you want to leave them with that has blessed your life?
Mm. Wow, that's such a great question. Y- I think probably one of the greatest blessings that I've experienced over the last probably 5 years is a growing belief in myself. And early in this last 5 years of my journey, I didn't necessarily have a big belief in myself. I had to borrow belief from other people.
Mhm.
That was coaches and my husband and others who said, no, you can actually do what you're talking about. Like, you can do it. I didn't necessarily believe it, but in borrowing their belief and making the decision to step forward in what they believed I could do, well, over time, their belief became my belief. And
Mhm.
I do believe in myself. My business coach tells me all the time, she said, the level of your success is limited only by your ability to believe in yourself.
I really do.
And I would encourage you, believe in yourself. You have come a long way and done a lot of things. It is not by accident. It didn't just happen. You used what was given to you to accomplish great things, and you can accomplish greater things still.
Mhm.
So if you lack belief in yourself right in this moment, feel free to borrow my belief in you and find some others that will believe in you until you can believe in yourself.
Expert, expert, the experts talking, great advice. And I know that to be true. So I thank you so much for just sharing your wisdom today, your insight. So if people would like to find you and connect with you and learn more about your services as a whole, how can they do that?
So I think I'm most active on LinkedIn. So feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn. I'll make sure that Wendy gets a link to my LinkedIn page so that you can come, and I accept requests all the time. So feel free to just send a connection request. Do not be shy. This might be a first step that you take. Like, let me connect with someone that I don't actually know already. And then I want to invite them to listen to my podcast. I have a podcast called The Stage Whisperer. It's all about how to grow as a public speaker, and episodes are nice and short, nice bite size, but always full of practical, actionable tips. So I'd love to have people come over and join me there.
Awesome. We'll make sure that we share that as well. So again, I want to thank everyone for joining in for another episode of the Purpose Partner Path podcast. And remember, you may be standing at a crossroads today, but your next chapter is still waiting. And I'm here for you. Aurora's here for you. And if you're ready for your next step, please reach out to me by visiting my website, wendygladney.com. And hey, by the way, my latest book is now in paperback, and you can order that on my website at wendygladney.com. It's called the Purpose Partner Method Handbook. So until next time, thank you again, Aurora, for being with us. God bless you and have a wonderful day. Bye-bye.
Exhale, let go, and enjoy the purpose. Partner, partner, podcast. Wendy, Wendy, Wendy.